So, how does a city become a global icon? Well, for Dubai, it's a story of some pretty radical transformation, a journey that you can really tell in three distinct acts. We're going to explore how it went from preserving its historical soul to literally touching the sky, and now to designing a truly sustainable future. To really get Dubai, you have to understand this contrast right here. On one side, you've got Al Bastakia, a neighborhood built on a very human scale back in the 1890s, and on the other, the Burj Khalifa, a record-shattering global statement that opened in 2010. This one slide, it pretty much captures the entire arc of Dubai's incredible ambition. So, let's start with Chapter 1, the fight to save the city's past. And believe me, it's a story that almost had a very, very different ending. This is Al Bastakia, which today is known as the Al Fahidi Historical Neighborhood. Just picture it. It's the 1890s, and wealthy Persian merchants, drawn to all the promise of Dubai, set up this community. And it wasn't just 60 homes. It was like a maze of narrow, winding lanes, all designed on purpose to create shade and really build this close-knit community feel. Now, here's where the story gets really wild. This entire district came so close to just vanishing. By the 1980s, half of it was already gone, bulldozed for new offices. Then, in 1989, the final demolition order was issued. But get this, a chance visit from Britain's Prince Charles, who totally fell in love with the place and argued for its preservation, saved it at the very last minute. The demolition was canceled, and by 2005, a full-blown restoration project was underway. So the real point here is this. Saving Al Bastakia wasn't just about saving some old buildings. It was a conscious choice to lock in a cultural identity, to give the city a soul that went way deeper than just glass and steel. Which, brings us to a really fascinating question. At the exact same time Dubai was rediscovering its own history, what kind of monumental project was it working on to define its place in the modern world? And that leads us straight into Act 2, the creation of an icon so ridiculously tall it would literally put Dubai on every map in the world. The decision to build the Burj Khalifa, that was a massive strategic gamble. The government knew it couldn't rely on oil forever. The goal was to build something so absolutely sensational that it would become a magnet for international attention, for investment, and, of course, for tourism. The scale of this ambition was just staggering. First up, the cost, an estimated $1.5 billion. Next, let's talk height. At 829.8 meters, it didn't just break the record for the world's tallest structure, it completely shattered it. And the floors? A mind-blowing 163, more than any other building on the entire planet. And check out this chart. It shows you the goal wasn't just to break one record, it was to completely dominate the leaderboard. We're talking tallest freestanding structure, highest elevator, highest restaurant. Every single one was a deliberate statement. This wasn't just a building project, it was an absolute masterclass in engineering. But here's a little architectural secret for you. A huge chunk of that record-breaking height is what's called vanity height. The top 244-meter spire, it's almost all unusable space. In fact, that spire alone is so tall, it would be the 11th tallest building in all of Europe. Crazy, right? So what's the bottom line here? The Burj Khalifa was never just a building. No way. It was a declaration. It was Dubai planting its flag firmly and unmistakably on the world stage. But okay, after you've secured your identity and declared your ambition, what comes next? Well, that brings us to the third and final act of our story, Dubai's big pivot toward a sustainable future. And this pivot isn't just talk, it's official policy. The Dubai 2040 Urban Master Plan lays out a concrete roadmap, and the goals are incredibly bold. We're not just talking about doubling green spaces, but envisioning a future where nature reserves make up a whopping 60% of the entire emirate. And you can see why this focus is so critical. I mean, globally, urban development is a massive source of carbon emissions. When you break it down, properties and construction together account for almost 40%. So tackling this is absolutely key to any real green strategy. And this local focus is now playing out on the world stage. At the recent COP28 climate conference, which was hosted by the UAE, a truly historic agreement was reached. For the first time ever, countries committed to transitioning away from fossil fuels. It was a huge moment that happened right in Dubai's backyard. So the ultimate takeaway for this final act is this. For Dubai, Going green isn't just about following some trend. It's a calculated strategy for survival and for long-term relevance, making sure the city can thrive for generations to come. Okay, so let's bring it all together. What we've really seen here is a city going through this incredible three-part evolution. It's a story in three simple parts. First, looking back to save its soul, then looking up to declare its ambition to the world, and now looking forward to secure its future. Each step was a deliberate, strategic choice, and each one defined a brand new era for the city. Which leaves us with one final and, I think, pretty fascinating question. Can a city that became famous for being the biggest, the tallest, and the most extravagant, can it now transform itself into a leading global model for sustainability? Well, the next chapter of Dubai's story is still being written.